Good morning, students. Let's start with SPM, Software Project Management, right? It's a part of 5th unit, but remember, I'm taking this topic out of the sequence is because it will be a part of your internal assessment, which is scheduled in the last week of April, right? Since it is being taken up in another section, so kindly don't assume that it won't be coming in your internal assessment. This topic will be a part of that, right? So SPM, since it is a broader topic, it will take some time, right? So starting with the basics of SPM, what do you mean by an SPM? We have already discussed in the few initial lectures in the first unit. As the name suggests, software project management, if you remember, is an umbrella activity of SDLC, right? Umbrella activity means it spans the overall software development, right? Before the SDLC starts, during the SDLC also, the activities are being carried. So these activities can be phased activities, it can be non-phased activities also. We'll see in the later. See what does it mean. So SPM in software engineering is an important factor driving the project from product conception till the completion. That means as conception means as the problem came in till the completion. Everywhere the SPM activities will be involved. Right? Now it's an umbrella activity of SDLC which spans the overall software development. That is true. Now, who does this task? This is the responsibility of a project manager. So, whatever is the project, how big your organization is, ultimately you need to manage your project. That is actually done by the project manager, and who is responsible? The project manager is responsible for that. So, what are the important duties for a software project management? That is what we are supposed to do. To write project proposal, right? The project proposal is basically written by the project manager. Then go for estimations. We go for size, cost, time estimations, right? Scheduling, and then staffing, everything, all sort of estimations are being carried out here. Help and keep the group of software developers motivated. So if you're working in a team, definitely you require each and everyone or the person or the development team members whosoever is working in your project, they are motivated. They carry out their task with full enthusiasm. It's not like a sort of a burden, right? You have to motivate them. Building the team morale, right? Steer project towards successful completion, right? It's a responsibility of the project manager, right? If you're doing certain tasks, it must successfully complete, right? An effective software project management requires proper project planning, project monitoring and control. So we have already discussed this also. The SPM is broadly divided into two major tasks. The first one is a planning and second one is a monitoring and control. So we can see from here, SPM activities are broadly divided into two tasks, planning part and monitoring and control. So planning is something which starts before the development starts. You have to plan for the overall software. Planning is also done for the each phase. Before starting with each phase, we plan for that phase, right? We go for requirement plan, we design planning is required, then we go for test plan documents. Like for each and every phase, some sort of planning is being required. We'll see what are the activities associated with the planning. And once the planning is done and you started with the development, then we require to monitor and control the project. So that is in the form of a review. After each phase, once you complete a phase, a review is being carried out, right? That is monitoring and control to check the progress, to check whether it is being delayed, to what countermeasures it could be taken up, right, to overcome that situation. So everything is a part of monitoring and control. Let's start with project planning. So project planning is something where we go for estimations. The first task, there are multiple tasks that needs to be done. The most important one is your estimation. Okay. So once a problem comes in, what is the basic task is, say customer said you have to develop a project having 5 requirements and he states certain cost and time for that. So we need to check, are we able to complete it in the given time and cost and achieve a particular level of quality? So in order to estimate that cost and time, this is what a rough estimation is being carried out. We estimate the size, we estimate cost, time and effort required. And for this we have several metrics and the models used for that. We'll be doing estimation modeling. So we have size oriented metrics for this. For cost, time and effort we'll be using COCOMO model. That is important. So we go for rough, you can say, calculation or the estimation. And if we found okay fine, we can do it in the given cost and time, then it's fine, else we negotiate with the customer. So this is what project estimation is. Then second one is project schedules. You need to check how many people are required, development team members, what are the resources that is required, right? We need to identify each thing. So schedules for manpower and several other resources has to be prepared that would be needed as the project progresses. So this is what is second task. Third one is staffing. Staffing needs to be organized and planned, right? That means in an organization, if you have development team members, right, you have identified that these people will be required. You have to identify the hierarchy between them. Say, hierarchy could be like you require development team members, right? There could be a team leader on top of it. You can have floor managers, you can have project managers, you can have directors. So there is a hierarchy. You need to identify that well organized structure, right? If new recruitments are required, then also we can go for that. Then project risk and management. So another activity is we go for risk management, right? So if you remember, we have done this risk management in the spiral model. I'll repeat it, but yes, it has been taken up. And other activities include we need to check for the quality of the product. That means basically we are concerned with the quality assurance, verification and validation. Then we look for configuration management plans. If you remember, this configuration management was taken up in RUP model, software configuration management. We will repeat it again, right? So these are few of the activities which are required to be taken up. So if I summarize, we go for estimations of size, cost, time and effort. We go for scheduling, we go for staffing, we go for risk management, and other activities include quality assurance, verification validation, configuration management and many more activities, right? Now, what is the precedence? How we are going to carry out? What should be the order? Which one will be the very first activity? So this is stated by this diagram. The very first task is size estimation, right? You have to estimate how much size is required for your project. So based on the size, then we calculate the effort required, and parallelly we also identify the time required for that. Now why size, right? Because say how much effort is required. If the size, say let's assume we are taking a simple program and it has one program has 10 lines and another program has 5 lines. So more effort will be required by which one? With 5 lines or 10 lines? Definitely 10 lines, right? So prior to this effort estimation, that means size an important parameter, and correlated with the time, definitely time required will be more for 10 lines than the 5 lines. So first activity is size estimation, second is your effort estimation, right? With this effort we calculate the development time, and once you calculate these two, then we go for cost estimation. So we'll be going for size estimation. We'll be having size oriented metrics based on line of code and function point. We'll be doing 2 methods under this category. Once this is done, then for effort, development time and cost, we will be doing COCOMO model. So COCOMO model is cost constructive model which calculates effort, first step. Based on this effort, we calculate development time, and based on the development time, we estimate the cost. So this three is a part of COCOMO model, right? Then is staffing and scheduling. So as of now, we are not going to do these two parts. It's not relevant to our syllabus. But yes, the other 4 parameters will be taken up in detail. Now, SPM, since it is an activity, elaborated activity, right? So we have to document it. So the document is known as SPMP document, that is Software Project Management Plan document. So for software planning, we require a document known as SPMP document. right? SPMP document is a well-organized document that contains the project planning in detail. Like we have prepared the SRS document, it has a proper format and a template, right? And we have prepared it. Likewise, we have this SPMP document which is again having a proper template, and we need to design that SPMP document that assists in your planning. Now, what does it consist of? It consists of project objectives, project estimates, schedules, resources, staffing, risk management plan, project monitoring and control, and other miscellaneous activities. So roughly discussing just quickly the SPMP structure. So introduction will consist of objective, function, performance issues and constraints. Then estimates will be using estimation modeling, which is of like based on historical data. Estimation technique details will be doing it, and cost, duration and effort estimate COCOMO model will be used for it. So we have several estimation part, like you can say techniques, will be doing all those in the next lectures. Then we have a schedule. We prepared two things: work breakdown structure and a Gantt chart and a PERT chart for this. Then project resources, we need to identify the manpower, that is the development team members who all will be required along with the hierarchy. The hardware and the software is required, and highly skilled professionals, right? Like if it is a risk associated project, you require an expert for that, or if it is an embedded system or an expert system you're developing. So skilled people are required for that. Then staff organization, that is team formation and structure and management reporting part is a part of this. Risk management is identification, analysis and abatement methods. Then project tracking for monitoring it, project control and miscellaneous activities. So roughly this is what a format of SPMP document is. Now, directly switching to project size estimation technique, right? The first estimation is of size, right? So what is challenging in size estimation? We are carrying out this estimation before the actual development starts, that is during the planning, and I said planning is carried out before the development, right? Now say you are supposed to identify how much size your software is going to take. You have to predict it. You haven't done anything right now. That means you haven't coded it. Size is basically what? We count the number of lines in your code and roughly we say this is the size is required. But as of now, it's just the inception of the problem and you need to predict how much size is this going to take is a challenging task, right? So for this, we have two measures actually. First is the size oriented metrics, the first method, which is based on line of code. Directly you have to count the number of source lines and it will give you how much size your software is going to take or the project is going to take. So it's a direct measure. You can count the number of lines. While another method is a function point analysis or a function point metrics. It's an indirect measure. That means it is something relevant to your functionality. Right? Now we cannot count, right? Like how much functionality is being achieved. You cannot identify it. Since it is an indirect measure, the functionality, you need to check for each and everything. Functionality wise, performance wise and everything with it is being. So you cannot directly, it's an indirect measure which cannot be directly measured. So what we'll do in this case, which is an indirect measure, we convert that indirect measure into a direct measure with the help of several parameters. And once it is converted, then you can count it properly, right? So these two techniques will be used for size estimation. The first one is a size oriented metrics based on LOC and second one is a function point metrics. So it's important to understand the project size estimation is the most fundamental parameter. If this is estimated accurately, then all other parameters like effort, duration and cost can be determined easily. I said everything depends upon the size, right? So we need to do it properly. Both of these serves as important project size estimation metrics. Different estimation models are present to estimate various attributes of software. I said we go for size estimation, these two. For effort, time and cost, we go for COCOMO model. So we have different models. You will see later. All the estimation models are derived from the past projects. That is also true. The first method of size estimation, that is line of code, LOC, right? So simply, what is LOC? Count the total number of lines of source code in a project, that gives you the exact size, right? Once the software size is estimated using LOC count, the programmer's skill level is taken into account because different developers are involved in software development process. Now what does it mean? Say I gave a problem statement that everyone is supposed to write a code for a given problem, right? Say in a class, if I give this problem, do everyone is going to write the code with the same number of lines or the same logic or the same pattern? No. Every individual has a different style of programming. Some might make it using simple construct. Some might use making a function, so the number of source lines will decrease. Some might use it with one, you can say pointers or maybe structures. So we have n number of ways to write a code. So everyone is going to write it different. Now if I say I want to estimate the size based on this line of code, so it might vary. For X person who has used a simple construct, the number of source lines will be more. And say let's assume second person, he used function, so the number of source lines will drastically reduced, right? So this is what the major essence of line of code is. You cannot predict the exact line of code because every programmer has different way of programming, right? Or writing the code I mean is, a person could write multiple statements in the same line by having semicolon between them, and another person could write the same set of lines in different line, one line semicolon, then second line or the statement semicolon, then statement 3 semicolon, next line statement 4, next line statement 5. So 5 lines will be there. But I can also write statement 1 semicolon, statement 2 semicolon, statement 3 semicolon in the same line. So number of lines will reduce, right? So let's see what is the problem associated with the line of code, right? So this is what is said here. Programmer skill or the level has to be considered while you're taking line of code into account. So according to it, we say skill level can be divided into 3, right? Programmer skill, efficient, average and poor. Okay, he is a efficient or a skilled person. He is an average person. He can write a good code, optimized code I mean. Some points are optimized, some are not. Efficient means it's totally optimized. And a poor, you can say a new user, right? Or a fresher. He cannot write an optimized code, but yes, maybe he is efficient to write a code, right? So developed code will be optimistic. We represent it with SOPT, optimistic. Average will say most likely, SM, and pessimistic, SPRES. Pessimistic say PESS, pessimistic. The spelling is wrong here, right? So how do you estimate it? When the software project is expected to have listed kind of code, then the software size is measured by the using formula S. The size is all the 3 cases. Okay? SOPT, SM, SPRA, that is optimistic, most likely and pessimistic. Expression says optimistic, average 4 times of the average and pessimistic, and then divided by 6. Just it's an expression, mathematically it has been given by some scientists. So we'll be using this expression for size. If it is given in the form of these 3, developed code, skill level. But if it is directly given in your question, you don't have to require this particular part. If these 3 distinct parameters are not provided, directly we'll be taking it. Now let's assume one example using this LOC method. A software system is expected to have 4600 optimistic, 6900 SM and 8600 pessimistic, right? This is SM, a space is there, and now what we are supposed to identify? Expected size of the software system, right? what will be the expected size? Simply we have a direct expression S equals to 4600, 4 times of average one, that is Sn, and this divided by 6, right? This is overall braces are here. So directly you'll get the total number of lines. And in the question directly I said, maybe this value is being given. It's not been given in set of these three. So it could be directly given also. So size is estimated using this. Second is, if software development effort is expected as 2 man years, then what is the productivity rate? Right? So first of all, what do you mean by productivity? Is simply size upon effort. So size we have calculated, we have to identify the effort. So what does this effort mean? Right? You need to calculate this effort, and it is given as 2 man years. Right? So 2 man years means 24 months. 1 man year is 12 months. 2 man year will be 24 months. Now we have 6800 LOC, and the effort required is 24 months, or this much effort is required to work on these set of lines. So in a month, 6800 upon 24, this much LOC upon man month, or we call it as effort is, the unit of effort is person per month, or man upon month, right? So this is what is being calculated here. So this was your effort. Third one is, if software development duration is estimated as 5 months, then what is the average manpower required, right? So time is given to us 5 months. So the manpower required will be effort upon duration. That is, duration means development time. So effort calculated is 24 months, and the time is given as 5 months. So roughly it is equivalent to 5. Not exact, roughly, right? And the last one, if software development cost is estimated as rupees 2500 upon man month, what is the development cost of project, right? So we have to find the development cost. So development cost is development effort is 24, into cost upon man month. That is what we have calculated or given in the question. Here it is directly given. The software development cost is estimated as rupees 2500. So 2500 into effort, this will give you the overall cost. So there can be multiple numericals, right? You have to look into various examples for this. Since this is the topic where you will find different approaches are given in different sources or the books, right? This is what the most latest one I have included here, but yes, we do have simple approaches. If you are going to Rajamal, more examples are given there. You can refer that also. Now, what is an advantage and disadvantage of LOC method, line of code method? Advantage is universally accepted and in use many models like COCOMO model, right? That means it is universally accepted. Though it has several challenges or disadvantages or shortcomings, even then, now everyone uses this method, right? And this is what the basis of COCOMO model also. Whatever the size we have estimated using LOC, that will be further used for calculation of effort, time and cost. Estimation is closer to developer's perspective, right? And it is simple to use directly since you can count the number of lines. But what are the problems associated? Different programming languages contain different number of lines, right? What does it mean is, say I want to solve a particular problem, right? One programmer is writing a code in C and another is taking, say, VB. Now in C, you have to write each and every line. While in Visual Basic, that is VB, it is simply the drag and drop option because functions are already written there. So the number of lines drastically reduces with this VB, while the number of source line in case of a C language is more. So there will be variation in the estimations based on these programming languages. No proper industry standard exists for this technique. That means though we say it is universally accepted, but it's not in standard. Okay, it's not in standard, remember. It is difficult to estimate the size using this technique in early stage of project. Right? What does it mean? I said we have to estimate or predict the size while nothing is in your hand. You haven't developed it yet. You cannot count it. You have to assume that for this problem, this much source of lines will be there. Right? So this is a difficult task, assumption or prediction prior to the coding. And one more advantage, you can say the disadvantage, I mean, it also depends upon the programming style. I said skills are different, right? So these are the problems associated with LOC method. So we have a second method, that is a function point matrix. So you must have seen this term matrix. What does it mean actually? Matrix is, you can say, an indicator, right, which tells us to what extent a particular parameter is present in your system. Okay, I'll make it simple. There are three terms, similar terms: measure, measurement, and matrix. So don't get confused that these are similar. Measure is, say I am measuring the distance between ISBT and Graphicera. Okay, so measure is quantifying it. How much is the distance? So I'll say roughly 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer. So I have quantified it is 1, right? Unit is kilometer. So that is a measure. I'm quantifying it. Measurement is a process of measuring it. Okay, that is measurement. It's a process. What is matrix? Matrix is, with respect to certain value, we have to identify how much we have achieved or it is present in your system. For example, if I say quality must be 100%, but we knew it 100% is never achievable, right? So with respect to this 100, we say okay, 60% is achieved. Or you can say in the GATE exam, right, we calculate percentile. We never consider percentage, right? What is percentile? Percentile is something, say 100 people have attempted it, the highest score is 70. So we'll assume this 70 as 100 and then we'll calculate how much a person has scored with respect to the 70, not 100 now, right? So this is what a matrix is, which tells you with respect to certain value how much you have achieved it. So it's an indicator similar to measurement, but yes, it is different. With respect to certain standard value, we are going to calculate it here, right? So when we are saying function point matrix, that means we'll be creating certain metrics here with respect to function point. If it is LOC matrix, we'll say we'll calculate certain parameters of your project with respect to LOC, right? So how much effort is required with respect to line of code. Okay. How much effort is required with respect to function point? So that depends. So what is this LOC and function point? These are actually the normalizing value, the standard value which is taken in denominators while making a matrix. Now, let's continue with what is function point matrix. This estimation is best suited to measure the size of the project before the program development. Now we know with the LOC method this was difficult because you have to predict when nothing has been coded. So better is use this function point matrix because it is a better approach. You don't require the code or counting the number of source lines. From the problem statement where the functionalities are written, we can calculate this matrix. So in this method, the number and type of functions supported by the software are utilized to find the function point count. So type of function and the number of functions are basically required, and that is present before, like during the planning part also. When the customer gives us the problem, we know these are the functions will be present in your system. So we can directly calculate it from that particular part. Function point metrics overcome many of the shortcomings of LOC. Function point matrix proposes that size of the software project is directly dependent on various functionality it supports, right? More the features supported, the more would be the size. So it is directly proportional with the functions. If say number of functions are 10, the size will be more. if number of functions are 5, the size will be less. So it's directly proportional with that, right? So this technique helps determine size of the project directly from the problem specification. So is really helpful to project managers during the project planning while determining the size. So better than the previous method, though the previous method was universally accepted. So what are the parameters? I said functionality is something which cannot be directly measured. It is an indirect measure. And we need to convert this indirect measure into certain direct measures. So to convert this into direct measure, we require 5 parameters here, which are direct in nature. They are measurable quantities. Those 5 parameters are number of inputs. We can count it. Yes. Number of outputs are countable. Number of inquiries can also be counted. Number of files used, that can be also counted. Number of external interfaces, yes. So all the 5 parameters are direct measure. And using these direct measures, we will be calculating function point, right? So directly function point cannot be measured, but yes, it can be measured using these 5 parameters which are considered here. So simply you need to count all these number of inputs. So what is the difference between input and inquiry? Input is something, the data entering the system, while inquiry is that leads to data retrieval. Someone is putting or filing a query and you're responding to it. So those are considered to be the inquiries, the real-time responses that we give. While input are whatever data you are fetching to your system. Number of outputs, yes, we can count it. Number of files, say you are going to store your data in the form of files, right? So you have to, logical files will be considered here. And number of external interfaces, like the secondary storage devices that will be used here, the USBs, floppy disk, CD, DVD. So those are considered to be the external interfaces, right? So you need to count all those interfaces. They are easily countable, right? So what are the steps? First of all, count the number of functions of each proposed type. You need to count the functions. Then you need to compute unadjusted function point, right? Unadjusted function point will be calculating using this. Okay, we'll see it next. Then find the total degree of influence, right? That is complexity adjustment factors are being given and you have to find which one is applicable here. So total degree of influence, or it is also known as complexity adjustment factor. Sometimes it is given in the question, sometimes you need to calculate it. Then we compute value adjustment factor, right? And finally, the function point count is being calculated. So this is an important method. Remember these steps properly, right? First of all, count the number of functions, then calculate unadjusted function point, then calculate total degree of influence, then we calculate value adjustment factor, and finally we calculate function point count. So this was our task. We were supposed to count this function point and we took the help of these 5 parameters to get this function point, right? So how it is done? Compute the unadjusted function point. How do we compute it? Categorize each of the 5 function types as simple, average or complex based on their complexity. So first task is write all those parameters here. Now there is a weightage factor assigned to it. The weightage factor can be a simple, that means the project would be a simple project, it could be an average project, it could be a complex project. And these are predefined value for each of the category, right? It is fixed. If it is a simple project, the number of external inputs will be 3. If it is an average project, then number of inputs will be 4. This is a scaling factor actually which is being applied here, and these are the fixed values. Now according to project level of complexity, different empirical weights are calculated. This is what the weight is. It's a fixed table, I said. Now how do we calculate it? The unadjusted function point using this table. Say you have counted the number of inputs in your system, right? It could be low, average or high. So like example, I could say low, I can consider if your number of inputs are 5, 0 to 5 in the range, I'll say it is low. If it is in the range 6 to 10, I'll say average. And if it is greater than 10, I'll say high, right? So it can have certain values here, number of inputs, right? So just write the count here for each one of them. Number of external outputs, you can count it, right? Now I said there are 3 parameters, the weightage factor. Either it could be low, it could be average, or it could be high, right? So if it is low, multiply it with 3. If it is average, multiply this with 4. And if it is high, multiply this with 6. So this is what the weightage factor is, which you have to multiply with the count that you have achieved. And then you get the corresponding value from here. And then you will take the summation, you will write it here. Take the summation, write it here. Take the summation or add it, write it here. And finally all these values are added and you get unadjusted function point count here. Okay? So how it is done? Count these, multiply with the weightage factor which is fixed. You get their relevant entries here. All the 3 will be added to get this value. These 3 will be added to get this value. Once you compute all these, now add this. You will get the final unadjusted function point. Remember, I said our task is to calculate function point count. And here we are saying unadjusted function point. That means you have to adjust it. How it is adjusted? By calculating these 2 factors, and finally this factor needs to be calculated. So this is what the sequence is. So first of all, calculate this unadjusted function point. Numerically, mathematically, you can say unadjusted function point can be calculated with this. Simply it is given from this table, right? You have I and j, rows and columns, and you are going to multiply this, then take the summation, and this will be calculated. This is what is expressed using this mathematical expression also. Okay? But if the table is there, it is better to use a table or make this table. The weightage factors are identified for all function units and multiplied with the function units accordingly. The procedure for the calculation of UFP is given in the table. The procedure for the calculation using the mathematical form is this, while I indicates the rows and J indicates the column. Wij, it is the entry of the ith row and jth column of the table 1, while Zij, it is the count of the number of function units of type I that have been classified as having the complexity corresponding to column J. So ultimately, don't go into much details of this. This table is sufficient and directly you go and consider this. Now the second step, once you have calculated this unadjusted function point, right, then you have to find the total degree of confluence. This total degree of confluence is scaled between 0 to 5. But what are these? We also call this as complexity adjustment factor. I have written this specifically because in some books you will find the term given is total degree of confluence, while in some books you will see the term used is complexity adjustment factor. Don't get it confused, these two are the same thing, right? Now what is this complexity adjustment factor? That is actually Fi, is a complexity adjustment factor where I is between 1 to 14. That means there are certain complexity adjustment factors. Certain I mean is 14 complexity adjustment factors which are scaled in the range 0 to 5. Understand it once again. We have few complexity adjustment factors, that is Fi, which are 14 in number, and these 14 complexity adjustment values are scaled in the range 0 to 5, right? And then we calculate using the expression 0.65 plus 0.01 into summation of Fi. Since they are 14, so all the 14 values will be given. Then you have to add all those and put it here, right? For this, I'll show what does it mean. These are your complexity adjustment questions actually. These are 14 questions. Okay, you don't have to remember it, just for the reference I have added it, else it is given in the question. Right? So what is the first question? Does the system require reliable backup and recovery? Is data communication required? So we are checking how much influence these questions has in your project. So we have scaled these 14 into the range 0 to 5, I said. So we'll see if the parameter has any influence. So it could be incidental, it could be moderate influence, it could be average, it could be significant, or it can be essential influence, or no influence also. So this is how we have scaled these 14 complexity adjustment factors in the range 0 to 5, depending upon whatever is there given to it, right? So these are the number of factors considered. So it becomes simple. So simply it is given in the question, don't get confused, right? Now we have to compute value adjustment factor. So value adjustment factor is computed with this expression which I have given here, 0.65 plus 0.01 into Fi, right? Or the same thing, instead of Fi, I said Fi, summation Fi or TDI is the same thing. I am using both the expressions. As per one book, it is given in the form of TDI. So this will be the expression. As per another book, you will find it is given with the help of this Fi term, that is CAF. So I am using this term. Okay. So both are same, expressions are same. Only one is represented with TDI and in the another one it is represented using Fi. Okay. They are the same thing. Once you calculated this value adjustment factor, now finally we calculate function point count. Function point count is calculated using unadjusted function point that we have calculated using the previous table, this, and VAF you have calculated here. Multiply these two, you will get this function point matrix. So we'll see an example also that will be better clear. So simply summarizing, first of all, with the help of these 5 parameters and the weightage factors, compute this, add it, you get unadjusted function point. Then identify the total degree of confluence, that is summation of Fi, right? Once you know this Fi or TDI, compute VAF using the expression this, where this TDI is considered. And once you calculated this VAF, finally calculate the function point count by multiplying the unadjusted function point and value adjustment factor. So you will get this final value, the size. This is representing the size actually, right? Now see, what are the advantage and disadvantage of this method? It can be easily used in the early stages of project planning. Yes, because we don't require the code. We can identify this from the problem statement itself. So it's an advantage. It is independent on the programming language. That was a shortcoming of the LOC method. That was depending upon the programming language. It can be used to compare different projects even if they use different technologies also. Right? It hardly matters. Then what is the disadvantage? It is not good for real-time systems and embedded systems, right? Because their complexity is different. Many cost estimation models like COCOMO uses LOC, and hence FPC must be converted to LOC. So we said like LOC method was universally accepted because it is used in further calculation of efforts, time and cost in COCOMO model. So this method FPC is not used in COCOMO. So you need to convert this FPC into LOC further. So this is another disadvantage. Now let's see an example based on function point. Consider a software project with numbers or the weights of input, output, inquiries, files and external interfaces. So all the values are given to us. See, directly here the values are given. Number of inputs are 20 and this in the bracket is the weightage factor. So directly in the question the weightage factor is provided. If it is not provided, then you are supposed to remember that table. Okay, the weightage factor 1. So here in this case the number of input and the corresponding weightage factor, number of output and the corresponding weightage factor. Inquiries, weightage factor. Number of files, weightage factor. Number of external interfaces and the weightage factor is directly given here, right? The complexity adjustment of the project is 0.3, right? It's given in the form of an average, right? 14 complexity factors are there. If you remember, we are talking about this Fi, that is 1 to 14. So we are saying it's an average. That means all 14 values are 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, right? 14 times. So this is what average is 3 for complexity adjustment value or factor. Now what are the function points required for the software project? So what is given to us? This is given, so we can calculate the unadjusted function point directly, right? Then complexity adjustment value is given, average is 3, and then we are supposed to calculate it. So let's see. The first is, like, the expression that will be used finally will be function point is unadjusted function point into value adjustment factor. So for this, first of all, we'll be calculating this unadjusted function point or total count. That is this, multiply these and take the summation. 360 is unadjusted function point. This is how we were supposed to calculate using this table also. Directly it is given this, and simply you are taking multiplying and then taking the summation. So we are multiplying here and then taking the summation. It comes out to be 360. Then we need to calculate value adjustment factor. So the expression for value adjustment factor was 0.65 plus 0.01 into summation of Fi. So summation of Fi is 14 values. So 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 14 times you need to add it. Okay? That is summation of Fi. Average given is 3. So each is 3. So directly 14 into 3, or you can say 3, 3, 3, add 14 times, you will get this. So this is what 14 into 3. This is your value adjustment factor 1.07. So now you got UFP also, and we have calculated VAF. Finally, the function point will be multiplying these two factors. This comes out to be function point. So this is the size required. Function point is what? We are doing size estimation. So this is the function point count. Right? So this was your size oriented metrics or the size estimations that we have done. Now in the later lectures we'll be doing COCOMO model and the further things required for software project management.